The first time Aiden Lewis climbed the crumbling stone steps of Rosehill Villa, he nearly turned around and walked away. The dilapidated mansion loomed against the afternoon sky like a beautiful woman who'd aged without grace, a sight that inspired both awe and pity. But the classified ad had promised steady pay for 6 months of restoration work, and with his daughter's school tuition due, walking away wasn't an option. "Dad, it looks haunted," 9-year-old Lily whispered, clutching his weathered hand. Her eyes, identical to her late mother's, widened at the sight of the grand but neglected estate. "Not haunted, sweetheart, just neglected," Aiden replied, giving her hand a reassuring squeeze. His calloused fingers, evidence of a decade spent building and fixing other people's dreams, contrasted against her soft skin. Someone once loved this place very much. A real estate agent named Marcus waited at the top of the stairs, his expensive suit out of place amid the overgrown grounds. "Mr. Lewis, thank you for coming. As I mentioned on the phone, the owner wants the property restored to its original glory. Budget isn't a concern, but time is. The work needs to be completed within 6 months." Aiden raised an eyebrow. In his experience, people who said budget isn't a concern always eventually decided it was. "I'd need to see the interior before I can commit to a timeline." "Of course," Marcus replied, unlocking the massive oak door. "The owner is quite particular about preserving the historical integrity. The property has been in her family for generations." Aiden nodded, mentally cataloging what he could already see needed fixing: the sagging roof, the cracked masonry, the rotted window frames. "And the owner, will they be involved in the decision-making process?" "Miss Sinclair is currently overseas. She's authorized me to be your point of contact, but she may check in on the progress occasionally." Marcus hesitated. "She's quite particular." Lily tugged at his hand. "Dad, can I explore the garden while you talk grown-up stuff?" Aiden assessed the overgrown garden. It was wild but contained within the property walls. "Stay where I can see you through these windows, okay? And don't touch anything rusty." As Lily skipped outside, Aiden followed Marcus through the villa. Despite its state of disrepair, the bones of the house were magnificent soaring ceilings, intricate moldings, a grand staircase that curved like a ribbon to the upper floors. His contractor's eye caught every issue, but his artist's heart saw the potential. "It's a mess," he admitted, "but a beautiful one. I can do it, but I'll need complete access, a crew I trust, and clear communication about expectations." Marcus handed him a thick folder. "Here's everything: the original blueprints, historical photos, and a detailed scope of work. Miss Sinclair has already approved the craftsmen listed on page 12, but you're free to bring in your own team as needed." Aiden flipped through the materials, impressed by the thoroughness. Whatever Miss Sinclair did for a living, she was certainly methodical. "The timeline is tight, but doable. I'll need to coordinate with the school schedule for my daughter. She's my priority. Miss Sinclair mentioned you're a single father. There's a carriage house on the property that's been modernized. You and your daughter are welcome to stay there during the renovation. It would save you commute time." Aiden hesitated. Their tiny apartment was cramped, but it was home. Still, the hour-long drive each way would eat into both work time and time with Lily. "Can I see it first?" The carriage house turned out to be a charming 2-bedroom cottage with updated amenities far nicer than their apartment. Lily fell in love with it instantly, especially when she discovered the window seat in the smaller bedroom overlooked a pond. "Dad, please, can we stay here? Please." Her eyes, so like her mother's, were impossible to resist. Aiden signed the contract that afternoon. The pay was generous, the accommodations perfect, and the work, though challenging, was exactly the kind of project he had dreamed of tackling. They moved in the following weekend, and Aiden threw himself into the restoration. Days turned into weeks as Aiden worked methodically through the villa's many rooms. He carefully stripped layers of wallpaper to reveal the original patterns, rebuilt rotted floorboards, and painstakingly restored intricate ceiling medallions. The work was exhausting but deeply satisfying. Lily adjusted quickly to their temporary home, taking the bus to her school in the mornings and doing homework in a sunny corner of the carriage house in the afternoons. On weekends, she often followed Aiden around the villa, asking questions about his work and occasionally helping with small, safe tasks. "Dad, who's that lady?" Lily asked one Saturday morning, pointing toward the main gates where a sleek black car had just pulled up. Aiden looked up from the porch balustrade he was repairing. A woman emerged from the car tall, with auburn hair caught in the breeze. Even from a distance, her presence commanded attention. "I don't know, sweetheart. Maybe it's Miss Sinclair, the owner." He set down his tools and wiped his hands on a rag, suddenly aware of his paint-splattered jeans and worn t-shirt. The woman approached with confident strides, sunglasses masking her eyes. As she got closer, Aiden was struck by her beauty, not the artificial kind that graced magazine covers, but something more authentic and striking. "You must be Aiden Lewis," she said, removing her sunglasses to reveal eyes the color of warm amber. "I'm Abigail Sinclair." Aiden extended his hand, conscious of its roughness. "Nice to meet you, Miss Sinclair. This is my daughter, Lily." Abigail's expression softened as she smiled at Lily. "Hello, Lily. Are you helping your father with this big project?" "I'm the quality control supervisor," Lily replied seriously, making both adults laugh. "Well, I couldn't ask for better oversight," Abigail said. "Would you mind giving me a tour of the progress, Mr. Lewis? I've been following the photos Marcus sends, but I'd like to see things firsthand." Aiden guided her through the villa, explaining his approach to each room. He was surprised by her knowledge of historical architecture and restoration techniques. Most clients nodded politely through his explanations, but Abigail asked insightful questions and offered thoughtful input. "The library ceiling medallion was tricky," he explained, pointing up at the intricate plasterwork. "I had to make a mold of the intact sections to recreate the damaged parts." "It's beautiful," she murmured, her gaze lingering on his handiwork. "You're an artist, Mr. Lewis." He felt unexpected warmth spread through his chest at her praise. "Just a craftsman with attention to detail." "Don't diminish your talent," she said, her eyes meeting his with surprising intensity. "What you're doing here is preserving history and bringing beauty back to life. That's art." Throughout the tour, Lily trailed behind them, occasionally interjecting with her own observations. Aiden noticed how Abigail always bent down to meet his daughter's eye level when she spoke, treating her with genuine respect rather than childish condescension. "You've made remarkable progress," Abigail said as they completed the tour. "I'm impressed. Thank you. We're still on schedule despite some unexpected challenges with the foundation on the east wing." Abigail nodded. "Marcus mentioned that." "I've approved the additional funding needed for those repairs. Don't cut corners on structural integrity." "I never do," Aiden assured her. "Dad's the best," Lily declared proudly. "That's why all his clients recommend him to their friends." "He says doing things right the first time saves trouble later." Abigail's smile deepened. "Your dad is absolutely right about that." She checked her watch. "I have a meeting in the city this afternoon, but I'll be staying at the hotel nearby for a few days. Perhaps I could stop by again tomorrow to discuss the garden restoration plans." "Of course," Aiden agreed, ignoring the inexplicable flutter in his stomach. "We'll be here." After she left, Lily looked up at him thoughtfully. "Dad, Miss Sinclair is really pretty." Aiden ruffled her hair. "Yes, she is. Now, how about we finish fixing that balustrade?" But his thoughts kept drifting to amber eyes and the unexpected connection he'd felt with a woman who should have been worlds apart from him. Abigail returned the next day, and the day after that. Each visit ostensibly had a purpose, discussing the garden layout, selecting paint colors, approving fixture replacements, but the conversations inevitably extended beyond the renovation. Aiden learned that Abigail had inherited the villa from her grandmother, but hadn't visited in years due to her busy schedule running her family's global investment firm. I used to spend summers here as a child, she confessed one afternoon as they walked the grounds. It broke my heart to see it falling into disrepair, but I never had time to oversee its restoration properly. Why now? Aiden asked. Abigail was quiet for a moment. My grandmother passed away last year. In her will, she asked me to restore the villa and remember what matters. I think this was her way of telling me to slow down, to reconnect with the things that brought me joy as a child. She sounds wise, Aiden said softly. She was. She also would have liked you, Abigail added, her eyes meeting his briefly before looking away. Your dedication to craftsmanship, your patience with the process, those were values she held dear. On the 5th day of Abigail's visit, a spring storm rolled in. Aiden was securing loose shutters when the downpour began. Soaked, he ran for the carriage house, surprised to find Abigail there, helping Lily with a science project. I hope you don't mind, she said, looking up from the table covered in cardboard and clay. I was dropping off some fabric samples when it started raining, and Lily invited me to help with her volcano. I told her you wouldn't mind, Dad, Lily added quickly. Miss Abigail knows all about volcanoes because she visited real ones in Hawaii and Iceland. Of course I don't mind, Aiden said, touched by the domestic scene before him. He grabbed a towel to dry his hair. Though I should warn you that volcano making with Lily usually ends with someone covered in baking soda. I'll risk it, Abigail laughed, rolling up the sleeves of her silk blouse. The storm intensified, thunder cracking overhead. Lily, who had always been frightened of storms, pressed close to Aiden. Dad, it's a big one. It's okay, sweetheart. We're safe in here. Abigail looked at the window where rain lashed against the glass. I should probably head back to the hotel before the roads flood. That's not safe, Aiden said immediately. The creek crossing on the access road floods easily. You should stay until the storm passes. Abigail hesitated, then nodded. If you're sure I'm not imposing. Not at all. In fact, he gestured toward their half-completed project, I think we owe you dinner after roping you into volcano duty. The three of them prepared dinner together, a simple pasta dish with ingredients from Aiden's modest pantry. Abigail moved around the kitchen with unexpected ease, admitting that cooking had been a hobby she'd neglected for years. When you're constantly in meetings and traveling, you forget the simple pleasure of creating a meal, she said, chopping garlic with practiced precision. This is the first time I've cooked for anyone other than myself in probably 5 years. Dad cooks every night, Lily declared proudly. He says restaurants are for special occasions. Smart man, Abigail smiled at Aiden over Lily's head. Financial wisdom and culinary skills a rare combination. After dinner, with the storm still raging, they played board games by lamplight when the power flickered out. Lily fell asleep on the couch, and Aiden gently carried her to bed. When he returned to the living room, Abigail was standing by the window, watching the rain. The candles they'd lit cast a warm glow across her features, softening them. Thank you, she said without turning. This evening was unexpected. Aiden moved to stand beside her. Good unexpected, I hope, she turned to him, her expression vulnerable in a way he hadn't seen before. The best kind. Do you know how long it's been since I spent an evening without checking my email, without conference calls or strategy meetings or investment reviews? Sounds exhausting. It is. But it's also what I've always done, what was expected. She hesitated. Being here in this house with you and Lily, it reminds me of a different kind of life. They were standing close now, close enough that Aiden could smell the faint scent of her perfume mixed with the garlic from dinner. It was an oddly intimate combination. What happened to Lily's mother? Abigail asked softly, if you don't mind my asking. Aiden took a breath. It was a question he'd answered many times, but it never got easier. Cancer. Lily was 4. Emma fought hard, but it was aggressive. I'm so sorry, Aiden. It was 5 years ago. We've found our rhythm, Lily and I. He smiled slightly. She's the best thing in my life. You're an amazing father. That's obvious from the way she looks at you. The candlelight flickered between them, and for a moment, Aiden thought Abigail might step closer. Instead, she glanced at her watch. The storm's letting up. I should probably go while there's a break in the rain. You could stay, Aiden offered, then quickly added, the guest room is made up. It's not fancy, but it's comfortable. Safer than driving on flooded roads at night. Abigail's hesitation was brief. If you're sure, I am. The morning brought clear skies and a shift in their relationship that neither acknowledged directly but both felt. Abigail joined them for breakfast, helping Lily pack her lunch for school. When the bus arrived, she stood beside Aiden, waving until it disappeared down the long driveway. I should get back to work, Aiden said, reluctant to break the spell of domesticity that had settled over them. And I have calls scheduled all afternoon, Abigail replied with equal reluctance. But I was thinking, would you and Lily like to join me for dinner tonight? There's a place in town I used to love as a child. They make the best apple pie in 3 counties. Their dinner that evening was the first of many over the following weeks. Abigail extended her stay, moving from the hotel to the main house once Aiden had completed enough rooms to make it livable. She worked remotely, taking calls in the newly restored library while Aiden continued the renovation. In the evenings, the 3 of them often explored the grounds together, with Abigail sharing stories of her childhood adventures at the villa, and Aiden pointing out native plants and wildlife to an enraptured Lily. On weekends, they took day trips to nearby towns or simply enjoyed quiet mornings with board games and books. Aiden found himself looking forward to these moments more than he cared to admit. Abigail was unlike anyone he'd ever known, brilliant and accomplished, yes, but also surprisingly down to earth and genuinely kind. She listened to Lily's endless stories with real interest and never treated Aiden's work as beneath her, despite the vast difference in their financial circumstances. One evening, after Lily had gone to bed, they sat on the newly restored terrace, sharing a bottle of wine under the stars. I've been thinking about something, Abigail said, turning her glass slowly in her hands. Sounds serious, Aiden replied, noting the furrow between her brows. It is, actually. I've been considering moving back here permanently. Aiden's heart skipped a beat. To the villa. What about your company? I'd still be involved, of course, but more as a chairperson than CEO. My cousin Nathan has essentially been running day-to-day operations for the past year anyway. She looked up at him. Being here has reminded me of what I've been missing: community, purpose beyond profit margins, a place that feels like home. That sounds like a big change, the biggest. And honestly, it terrifies me. Her voice grew softer. But when I see you with Lily, the life you've built together despite the challenges, it makes me want more than just success. It makes me want happiness. Aiden reached across the space between them and took her hand. Her fingers were soft against his calloused palm. You deserve both, you know. So do you, she whispered, her eyes meeting his. The kiss that followed felt as inevitable as the tide, gentle at first, then deepening with a hunger that surprised them both. When they finally pulled apart, Abigail's eyes were bright with unshed tears. Aiden, there's something I need to tell you, something I should have said earlier. His stomach tightened. What is it? The trust fund my grandmother left for the villa's restoration. It's substantial. More than you might imagine, Aiden shrugged. I figured as much given the scope of the work. No, you don't understand. Abigail took a deep breath. My family's company, Sinclair Global Investments, we manage over $30 billion in assets. I'm not just comfortable, Aiden, I'm rich. He supplied with a small smile. I figured that out when Marcus mentioned your jet, Abigail. It's okay. It doesn't bother you. Does my lack of wealth bother you? He countered. Of course not. You're the most genuine, hardworking person I've ever known. Then we're even. He squeezed her hand. I care about who you are, not what you have. The renovation continued through summer and into fall, but with a new energy. Abigail became more involved, working alongside Aiden when her schedule allowed. Her business acumen proved valuable in negotiating with suppliers. while his practical skills brought her design ideas to life. Lily thrived with Abigail's presence, especially when she discovered their shared love of science and mathematics. Aiden often found them bent over textbooks together or conducting experiments in the kitchen. "She's really smart, Dad," Lily confided one night as he tucked her in. "She helps me understand math way better than my teacher." "She is really smart," Aiden agreed. "And she likes us a lot," Lily continued, her eyes serious. "I can tell." "Oh, how's that?" "She looks at you the way Mrs. Rodriguez looks at Mr. Rodriguez at school. They've been married for 50 years and they're still in love." Lily yawned. "Are you in love with Miss Abigail, Dad?" Aiden smoothed her hair back from her forehead, considering his answer carefully. "Would it be okay with you if I was?" Lily nodded solemnly. "Mom would want you to be happy, and Miss Abigail makes you smile the big smile, not just the regular one." "She does make me happy," Aiden admitted. "You both do." As the renovation neared completion, Aiden found himself facing an uncomfortable truth once the villa was finished. His reason for being there would end. The thought of returning to their small apartment, of not seeing Abigail every day, left a hollow feeling in his chest. One crisp October evening, with just 2 weeks left on the project timeline, Abigail found him in what had once been the villa's ballroom. The magnificent space had been one of the most challenging to restore, with elaborate parquet flooring and delicate plasterwork. Now it gleamed in the setting sun, restored to its former glory. "It's perfect," Abigail said, her voice echoing slightly in the vast space. "Exactly as I remember it from my childhood." "It came out well," Aiden agreed, running his hand along the polished oak of the doorframe. "Just the landscaping left, and then we're done." Something in his tone made Abigail turn to look at him more closely. "You say that like it's a bad thing." Aiden shrugged, not meeting her eyes. "It's been a good job, one of the best. Lily and I will miss it here." "Aiden." Abigail moved closer, taking his hand. "Look at me." He lifted his gaze to meet hers. "I don't want you to go," she said simply. "Either of you. The job will be finished. I'm not talking about the job." She took a deep breath. "Remember when I said I was considering moving back permanently?" "I've made my decision. I'm staying, and I want you and Lily to stay too." Aiden's heart thundered in his chest. "What are you saying, Abigail?" "I'm saying I love you, both of you. These months together have been the happiest of my adult life. The villa is beautiful, but it's just a house. You and Lily, you're home to me now." Aiden pulled her close, his voice rough with emotion. "I love you too. God, I've been trying to figure out how to tell you, how to ask if there was a chance for us after all this was over." "There's every chance," she whispered against his lips, "if you want it." "I want it, I want you." He kissed her deeply, pouring months of longing into the embrace. When they finally pulled apart, he pressed his forehead to hers. "But Abigail, our lives are so different. Your world is just a world. One I'd gladly share with you and Lily, but not at the expense of what makes you both so special." She stepped back, taking both his hands in hers. "I don't want to change your life, Aiden. I want to be part of it, however that looks. And Lily, she's everything to me." "I know that. It's one of the countless reasons I fell in love with you." Abigail's smile was tender. "I'd never try to replace her mother, but I'd be honored if she'd let me love her too." That night, they spoke with Lily together. To Aiden's relief, his daughter's response was enthusiastic. "Does this mean we get to stay at the villa? And Miss Abigail will be like my bonus mom." "Bonus mom," Abigail repeated, her eyes glistening. "Yeah, because I already have a mom, even if she's in heaven, but you'd be extra, a bonus." Lily explained with the straightforward logic of childhood. "Is that okay?" "That's more than okay," Abigail answered, opening her arms. Lily rushed into them without hesitation. Over the child's head, her eyes met Aiden's, bright with unshed tears and overwhelming love. They were married the following spring in the villa's garden, which bloomed with the roses Aiden had carefully restored from Abigail's grandmother's original plantings. Lily served as both flower girl and ring bearer, proudly walking down the aisle in a dress she'd helped design. The ceremony was intimate, with just close friends and family in attendance. Abigail's corporate associates were surprised by the simplicity of the event, having expected something more extravagant from one of the country's wealthiest women. But those who knew her best understood that she had found something more valuable than all her financial assets combined. After the guests departed, the three of them walked the grounds together, Lily running ahead to feed the swans that now glided across the restored pond. "Happy?" Aiden asked, his arm around his new wife's waist. "Beyond words," Abigail replied, leaning into him. "You know, when I hired a contractor to restore my grandmother's villa, I never imagined I'd end up with so much more than a renovated house. And when I took a job to pay my daughter's school tuition, I never imagined I'd find the love of my life." He kissed her temple. "Life has a funny way of working out. Dad, Abby, come quick," Lily called from the pond's edge. "The baby swans are hatching." Hand in hand, they hurried to join her, a family bound not by obligation or circumstance, but by choice and love, the strongest foundations of all. In the years that followed, Rosehill Villa became known throughout the region for its breathtaking restoration and the warmth of the family that resided there. Aiden established a training program for young craftspeople interested in historical preservation, teaching the skills that were becoming increasingly rare in the modern world. Abigail divided her time between managing her family's philanthropic foundation and mentoring women entrepreneurs, finding purpose that resonated with her values rather than just her bank account. And Lily thrived, growing into a confident young woman with her father's practical creativity and her bonus mother's sharp intellect. The villa's expansive attic was converted into a science laboratory for her 13th birthday, where she conducted experiments that would eventually lead her toward a career in environmental engineering. 2 years after their wedding, the family welcomed twins, a boy and a girl, who inherited their mother's amber eyes and their father's determined spirit. The once empty halls of Rosehill Villa rang with children's laughter, just as Abigail's grandmother had always intended. On quiet evenings, Aiden and Abigail often sat on the terrace, watching the sunset over the grounds he had restored with such care. Sometimes they spoke of the future, of dreams still unfolding. Other times, they simply sat in comfortable silence, hands intertwined, marveling at how a dilapidated villa had led them to the most unexpected and precious restoration of all, that of two hearts finding their way home to each other.